Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie and today I'm here to do my June wrap up. So June was a interesting month. I started off the first 3 weeks of June were just great as far as reading. I got a lot of reading done in the first 3 weeks. However, the last week I started an online course for summer and I had some stuff going on in my personal life that I kind of talked about in a few of my reading vlogs. But I managed to read 9 books this month, so that's pretty good. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in and get starting off, of course, with my monthly statistics. I read, like I said, a total of 9 books this month. Out of those 9 books, 2 of those were contemporary, 1 was a middle grade fantasy, 3 of them were YA fantasies, 1 was a thriller, and then 1 of them was a science fiction, and also 1 was a dystopian. Then 2 of those were rereads, and then the ratings that I gave this month ranged from a 2-star rating to a 5-star rating. So the first book I read this month was Grey by Pete Wentz. This is a reread for me. I started this during Music-a-thon back in May. Never managed to finish it in the month of May, but I carried it over into June, and it is a fantastic book. If you guys did not know, this is my favorite book of all time. I try to reread it once a year. Music-a-thon, I figured would be the perfect time. Of course, if you guys saw that vlog, which I'll have linked in the cards, that week didn't go as planned as far as my reading challenges, but this one I knew I wanted to reread sometime either in the late spring or early summer. So this is an adult contemporary book. It follows a character who is kind of going through a reflection of what it's like to be a rock star, and it kind of takes place where the band that this character is in is starting to get big and more popular, and he's away from family and friends for long periods of time, and it's just goes through the emotional state that he is in. It does definitely deal with very heavy topics such as depression and suicide, so if that is triggering to you guys, just be warned going in. But this book changed my life. I have a full review of it up on my channel. It's like the second video I ever uploaded here, so again, I'll link that in the cards. But 5 stars from me. I actually have a very special video planned about this book coming out in July, so be on the lookout for that. But again, 5 stars from me. The next book that I read this month was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I also started this during Music-a-thon. This is a middle grade fantasy novel. It's like a mixture of fantasy and contemporary, and it follows a character who is losing his mom to cancer, and every night a monster visits him and tells some stories. It is also now a movie, and I know a lot of people love this book, and I can definitely see why some people consider this their favorite book of all time. And it is definitely a very emotional book. It does deal with, a very heavy subject such as cancer, and I definitely could connect with the character on that element, as I have loved ones who have passed away from cancer in the past 5 years or so. So I definitely connected with the main character on that. Did it live up to the hype for me? Yes and no, but I would recommend it. I am going to check out the movie, and I have given this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read this month was Eleanor in Park by Rainbow Rowell. This is a YA contemporary novel, and it follows a couple who is in an interracial relationship. The female character, Eleanor, is a redheaded plus-size girl, and the main love interest, Park, is a Korean American character, and it follows them as they are in a romance and how that goes during the 1980s in which this book takes place. This is a book by an author that I had read previously. I had read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell back in February, and I really enjoyed this, so I was expecting to like this as well. This one fell a little bit short for me. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. It just had some good elements, but most of them I just found to be kind of meh, or just not living up to par with what I wanted it to be. There was quite a bit of fat shaming in this book, which, during the time period in which this book took place was, I don't know if it was acceptable, because I didn't grow up in the 1980s, but it wasn't as problematic as it is now, and now that I'm reading this in 2018, that's a little bit problematic. but the romance was okay and the plot line was okay. So, like I said, I gave that a 3 out of 5 stars. It was just okay. So the next book I read in the month of June was also a reread for me, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah Raasch. This is a new adult high fantasy series. It follows our main character, Selena Sardathian, who is the most feared assassin in all of the land. And the only way she can escape prison, she is in prison at the beginning of this first book, is to become the king's main assassin by entering a competition, kind of like Hunger Games style, where each assassin that is also participating is killed off one by one. I love this series. I first read it back in 2016 and I flew through the first 5 books, and now I am preparing to read the 6th book and the 7th book when it comes out in October, and the series kills me. Throne of Glass, though it definitely has its problems, I will definitely say that it has a lot of problems with it, but it is, I don't know, I guess you could kind of call it a guilty pleasure read. I still get so much enjoyment out of anything that this author writes. I consider her my favorite author of all time for a reason, and I just love this so much, and I gave it 5 stars, if you can tell. Love rereading this book every year. The next one I read was the Deadly Divas Book Club Book of the Month for the month of June, and that is The Lucky Ones by Sarah Raasch. This is a adult romantic thriller, and it follows our main character, Allison, who at the age of 12 was living in a foster home, but a doctor comes to her foster home one day and says that she should be living with him in his home, where he is basically raising troubled kids that were in the foster system previously. Then something happens a few years into her stay there, and she is whisked away by a family member. Now we follow her 13 years later as she is suddenly brought back to this house back in Oregon after living in Nashville for a number of years, after she receives a letter from one of her foster brothers saying that the foster father is dying of cancer and she needs to come and say her final goodbyes to him. And she kind of has to confront the events of her past and what brought her away from that house 13 years prior. This book was kind of a mess, in my opinion. I actually ended up DNFing this book at 194 pages. I think it was more romance heavy than thriller. I don't even know if I could call this a thriller. There was a mystery element, but it was not the main plot line, in my opinion. And after hearing the other members of the group's opinion on this book, I definitely think I'm the odd one out as far as not liking this book. A lot of people gave it like a 3 or 4 star rating. For me, I gave it 2 stars. It was very disappointing. Maybe I'll give it another try in the future if I'm really up for it, but just not for me. Song by Victoria Schwab was one that I had been meaning to get to since it was released in 2016. And I really liked it. It is a YA dystopian novel, and it follows 2 characters, Kate and August. Kate and August live in this world where any act of sin or crime pretty much spawns a real-life monster, and Kate is a human who just wants to be a monster like her father, and August is a monster who just wants to be human, and it follows both their storylines as they intertwine in this non-romantic dystopian world. It's very interesting. I think it was definitely worth the hype. I gave this 4 stars, and I cannot wait to see where this duology concludes in our dark duet. The next one that I read was the Chapter by Chapter Book Club Book of the Month for the month of June, and that book is The Wicked Thief by Shay Earnshaw. This one has been getting a lot of buzz as well, and I think it is also very much worth it. This is a YA paranormal novel. It follows our main character as she is living in a town that is pretty much cursed. At this point, 200 years prior to the events of this book, 3 sisters were drowned off the coast in the harbor of the town, are being accused as witches. And every year since then, they have returned to the town to take over the bodies of 3 teenage girls and take their revenge on boys by drowning them in the harbor. And it follows our main character Penny as she is trying to prevent the town's newest visitor from being one of those victims. It's very interesting. I loved it. I believe this is a standalone novel. That is amazing, and I gave this 4 stars. I loved it. And the final book I read this month was my biggest disappointment, probably, to be honest, of the entire year so far, and that is Illuminae by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is YA science fiction, and it's kind of hard to explain the plot of this, but I will say that it is definitely told in a different format, in like case files and emails and text messages. This is a very popular trilogy here on BookTube. Pretty much everyone and their mother has read this series, and I figured it's about time that I pick it up. So I did, and I hated it. Well, hate is kind of a strong word, but I really did not like this book. It started off very okay, and then it got a little bit better. Then the story just went downhill from there for me. I found it to be too long. First of all, this is almost 600 pages, and the romance, the romance was bad. Bad in all capital letters. I did not like the romance between Katie and Ezra in this book. I could not stand it. So I gave this 2 stars. And if I hear good things about the sequels, I will check it out. But at this point, I am definitely questioning if I want to continue on with the series. So that is my entire wrap up for the month of June, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below what you read this month, as I would love to know. And as always, all my social media links are linked down below for you guys if you'd like to follow me on any of those. And with all of it being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you soon for another video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye!